And anytime you can see a plume behind the cars, you know that it's well and truly time for a wet tyre. And here is a battle between Bright and Ambrose, side by side with Bright in the grass. And what is going on here?
Well, that's incredible. That was right at the entry to pit lane, and now Ambrose has gone 360. Something disastrous has happened there between Jason Bright and Marcus Ambrose. They were our race leaders just as we picked them up, and somehow Jason Bright has got on the inside of him at the entry to pit lane.
Well, I reckon Marcus was trying to pit or something, perhaps, and Bright was committed or just couldn't get across. It's very bizarre, but he certainly was persistent.
No doubt about it.
They both went on with it for a while. Here's the replay. What does it tell us? Bright has a look down the inside. There's the pit lane entry off to the left, but look, I don't know.
If he's trying to block the line, it's certainly way too late to do that, and pretty obvious that he's turning across the front of Jason. But I just think that maybe it was a last-minute call, come into the pits, perhaps.
It could have been, yeah, and he may not have known that he was under there.
So there should be one lap to go.
Got
It's
him.
the final lap. It's a big battle here. Ambrose has a go. Scaife is run off the circuit. Now this is interesting. He's lost a lot of ground, and look, Engel has swept through in all that drama to take the victory, and Todd Kelly has pounced as well. So Ambrose and Scaife have come together in a costly battle. Scaife.
That was very nice of them to leave all those gaps for me, don't you think? Absolutely.
Well, what a dramatic finish to the race. Scaife would be fuming. Russell's laughing.
The car was very good.
Unbelievable.
Well, let's have another look at this incident here. Scaife, who we have had a report that there might have been some smoke coming out of his car, but that's only a vague call at the moment. We'll try and investigate that for you.
He's a long way up. I mean, he's definitely got track position. They make contact and it just fires Scaife straight off, who now will start either at or very close to the very at or at the back of the grid. So
there's a broken steering arm, we understand, in this car right here after that clash.
oh, we've got a car on its roof. It's Paul Morris at turn 7.
Well, this is a very, very nasty accident. The Team BOC car has pulled up alongside to make sure that Paul Morris is okay.
It's Brad Jones, who I think is just going to go over there and make sure that he's okay.
Horrendous sight. The Zinger replay will show contact into the wall, and it flips the Team Cirame car upside down and rolling.
Yeah, fortunately, the rollover, now that I've seen it, wasn't as bad as otherwise might have imagined. So side by side, the reason was Brad's car tripped over the curb, and they did both back in there.
Oh dear.
Nasty incident. And Paul Morris will be wondering what on earth happened then. All of a sudden, he just would have been crunched from the left side. Oh, the guardrail's done a great job there of just cushioning that impact. And in rollover terms, it's not that bad. I mean, it's a pretty wild incident to witness, but a relatively gentle rollover as Paul now scrambles free.
It's been a tough ride for him. Look at the enormous pace that Bargwanna is carrying through the chase. Whincup would have seen that. Jason Bargwanna braking so deep. Now Whincup wants to pounce, has a look on the inside, gets on the position. They come together at Murray's corner, and Jason Richards goes skating on through. Costly stuff between car 3 and 888.
It's been brewing. Jason Richards up to 3rd.
Tander a 4.7 second lead. Rick Kelly 2nd. The contenders who've lined up to take on Rick Kelly have somehow fallen by the wayside. Buys back into the picture. Zinger replay. Watch this. Onboard 888. He's going to shoot across.
Crisscross, dirty side of the road. And is that going to be a clean move or not? It's right on the margin. You're going to be listening intently to race control. Yeah, and as he crisscrossed him, did he give him a rub which unsettled Jason?
Sprint gas racing have copped a few today.
someone off. Someone has gone off. Big,
Turn 7.
Dale Wood
big
and James
crash.
Courtney, they were involved together. What did you say about a safety car?
Massive. That is very fast.
That's
got
the
it
break.
going.
That's the break that Cam McConville's looking for here as well.
But he's got it going. But it will it go anywhere?
Have a look. So just straight in close.
Gee, look at the damage on it.
What the hell was that guy thinking?
He obviously got bumped.
Definitely a park at place.
Got pushed out. Oh, go off now because he can't steer it. He cannot steer the car.
And for Tim Slade and Cam McConville, Tander off the road, they need to make their second
they're off
stop.
everywhere.
Yeah, that was Dale Wood. They were involved. He was limping past the start-finish line, and that's the guy that James was talking about. What was he thinking?
What happened, mate? We didn't third.
I was just on the inside of it and he just turned into my rear quarter. And
That's
fired
Rick
me off
Kelly.
into the wall.
That's Rick Kelly off the road at 2.
That's all bad for him because he was in position.
Well, he was effectively in position 3.
And there's a penalty for car 17 for pit lane infringement because I don't reckon Dick can recover that tyre. Here it is again. Courtney and Dale Wood. That's the moment that triggered Courtney out into the weeds that put all this debris on the track. That's a massive wall contact. That'll be huge damage on that chassis. Second time this year. And then can't steer. It goes straight ahead at turn 2. So there's been a lot happen in a little space of time here. Wood's got damage. Courtney's got damaged. He's now parked. And you've got a penalty for car 17 as well for retrieving that tyre.
And the rumble turns to a roar as Tander and Bright slug it out at the front. Bright really aggressive. Tander can hold the line down to turn 1 and does so.
Garth's initial jump was very good, but the secondary part of the start was better for Jason Bright, and Bright prevails. He grabs track position when it matters most of the run through the S's.
That was a critical move from on those soft tyres to get clear of Tander. Was a very, very good manoeuvre and very close between Tander and Bright through the S's. Greg Murphy down the inside of Slade.
Winkup. Yeah, he gets the job done on Tander as well. So Tander goes from 1st to 3rd in the space of 3/4 of a lap and may drop another spot here. That's Winterbottom coming up over the rise. And Garth Tander gets a whack for his troubles. So they're back on again.
That was a little bit of a
Payback. Oh, he's gone. Tander gets turned around by Reynolds. And Davison's in there as well. The championship leader, and there is a fire in car 2.
Bring it straight to the lane. Bring it straight to the lane.
damage. Front left, I think, was flat on Will's car. Big problems here for Garth. It's ripped the oil cooler off and there's a fire.
It's actually seriously on fire. It might even be fuel fire under there.
There's a fire underneath, so the boys will be ready with the fire extinguisher when you get here.
A lot of damage to the front
Think
of
about your
Garth
firebomb.
Tander's car.
Think about your firebomb.
Series leader, Will Davison, in.
Carl, you need to get around that car. We need to clear that pit lane entry. Carl, you need to get around there. If we can clear that car off the pit lane entry road.
Here it is again in replay. This is the first lap, the run down to 7. The two of these guys getting stuck into it. And then Reynolds is the one that makes the contact with Tander. Watch at the apex, halfway up the side of the car. That's a bad angle for us to make a judgment call, but it was very awkward. Davison in sympathy spins. Amazing that the pack was able to get around.
I think someone must have hit the back of Davison. So this is on board now with Dave Reynolds. Here's the bumping duel, the Dodgem car antics with Winterbottom and Tander. And Dave Reynolds parks it right in behind his teammate and gets Tander. Tander's gone, but behind, someone must have hit the back of Davison. It may have been Craig Lowndes. Let's have a look at this again. This is Winterbottom. Dave Reynolds fills the hole. Tander turns across, and who gets him? No, it was Van Gizburg turns Davison from behind.
In the closing stages of the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000 of 2014. And this is high stakes poker. Mark Winterbottom leads the field. From Jamie Whincup, from Craig Lowndes, from Chaz Mostert, from Will Davison, from Rick Kelly, James Moffat, Andre Heimgartner, Todd Kelly and Nick Percat. That's your 10. But the focus is going to be on these first 4 or 5 heavyweights. They are playing for keeps here. They're playing for the greatest prize in Australian motorsport and 300 points. 2 of them are fuel compromised, we think, inverteds.
and the others have released themselves from that problem. But what have they all got? What's their tyre condition? What is the balance of the cars? The track will be coming to them. The shade is now appearing in various places around this racetrack, so it's going to be quick. And this is an unbelievable arm wrestle between two old foes, Winterbottom and Whincup at the top of the mountain.
This was the battle last year. Factory Ford versus Factory Holden. Whincup versus Winterbottom. They're currently leading the same circumstance we saw last year. Oh, massive moment
Huge
for Lowndes.
For Lowndes.
He was right out and almost crashed there. Mossed it right up behind him. That was absolutely out of control. 220 kilometres an hour in rallycross mode.
Lowndes nearly binned that on the exit of McPhillamy. He wrestles it back and it's loose at the rear. They've not been good on their restarts on several occasions in car 888. That was a move there for James Moffat, a critical one. He puts a move on Will Davison. It's a little air gap now for Winterbottom. What have they got in reserve? Do they have enough fuel? 300 kilometres an hour. Frosty's trying to go back to back. Whincup's done it before. They've got a little gap over Lowndes, who frightened everybody up at the top. Todd Kelly, he's in a battle there. Look at this. Whincup is Whincup down the inside. He's got the thing chirping on the rear brake. And Whincup goes to the lead. They're on for the crisscross. Jamie Whincup is the leader of the race. It's now Holden from Ford as they roar down towards turn number 1. There's absolutely nothing in it. And Lowndes has got a sniff. Lowndes has made contact with Frosty. Mostert's gone to second. Frosty's out of business. There's going to be emotion attached to this one. That is going to erupt in an absolute brawl in this paddock.
Well, let's have a look at the replay. So a massive dive. Down the inside goes Whincup. Gets it done. The crisscross for Winterbottom. He tries to get back there. He can't. He moves it over. He shifts across. He then shifts back. He wants to optimise his line to get onto Mountain Straight. He turns it in. Mark Winterbottom makes a mistake. He gets wide. And Lowndes, who was on a run, he wanted to get the run. He'll be caught for that.
He's a big chance for a penalty, Craig Lowndes, for that one. He's a big chance for a penalty. And you can see how frustrated they are inside the garage at Ford Performance Racing. And equal amounts of emotion inside Red Bull. Can you believe that? Race Control's going to have to make a really tough decision here.
Let's just get on with it. Let's get on with it. 11 laps to go.
Yeah, that would allow him to enjoy tomorrow and take the stress out of this championship battle. It's been an epic battle this year between two very, very competitive young men, and the way that Van Gisbergen's applied himself is a real credit to his campaign this season. Rusty?
Mark Winterbottom said to us earlier in the weekend, Scapey, that if there was an Achilles heel for him this season, it was car speed. And I just wanted into Pro Drive Racing Australia just to kind of question mark what you asked a moment ago. Is there a problem for car number 1? Chris O'Toole tells me no issue, but he kind of shook his head because the speed from Van Gisbergen, in his eyes, looks impressive.
He's having a sniff down the inside at 9. The gap is narrowed, and he's turned around Winterbottom. Oh, Frosty didn't fully rotate. Now, you've got to be so careful for McPherson. He understands the risk of this. They're swamping Van Gisbergen. He's disappearing down the field at the moment, and the last thing the Kiwi needs is a penalty. So the gap diminished on the braking run into turn 9. Now he's got all kinds of trouble. He's got Rick Kelly, Chaz Mostert, Nick Percat. There are people all over him at the moment, and Van Gisbergen has gone down the order.
Back in your rhythm.
So there's a point where you send it. Standard protocol in the business is don't drop the lap or you never get it back. So even if it's wounded, send it. So they've got it sorted out. Here's the replay. So down the inside on the shallow side, eventually Frosty's got to turn in. That was one of those awkward moments. That's where the damage occurred.
Is there damage to the right-hand rear of Van Gisbergen's too? Because that hit quite hard. When he come by, here's the replay, so he gets down.
Pit lane penalty
Here we go.
for car 97. Pit lane
Car
penalty
97.
for car 97. Driving infringement.
A penalty for car 97. The race director, Tim Schenken, has just called on the race management channel that there'll be a penalty as a result of this clumsy move.
This lap, we can recover.
Oh, and that's the point that I'm concerned about, because when he ran over the wheel, there's Grant McPherson, his engineer.
Frosty knows he's there. It just moves it to the right of the road ever so slightly. So this is a pretty wild battle pack. And look at this. Down the inside goes Jamie. And he tags him. He's tagged him and turned him. Oh. 180-degree spin for Winterbottom at turn 5.
Whincup will be in a bit of strife for that one, I think. I need to see another view just to see how far he got up there.
Brendan Hogan, engineer, new partnership.
Behind 18.
He crisscrossed him and he went for the shallow dive at turn 5, Jamie Whincup.
He was going to dive at the right-hander, and then he chose to go down to the left. Now, Frosty wouldn't know where he is. Now, does Frosty turn right in? No, he doesn't turn right in. Here it is. Yeah, no, he's hidden behind the beeper. I think Jamie's actually in a bit of strife for that one.
Bad sportsmanship flag at car 88 over use of the curbs at turn 2.
So
it looks better from that angle. It looks like he's further up.
All the different angles. It might be one that ends up being looked at later. Interesting, both 5 and 88, both getting bad sportsmanship flags, both at a time when they've got other things to worry about. For overusing the curb at turn 2. So here we are on board with Frosty. He rotates. He's lucky he didn't get cleaned up by someone who's exiting a blind corner there. Here it is again from the Red Rooster chopper cam. So little crisscross. Jamie dives down the inside, has to mount the curb because the gap diminishes. Only 3/4 of a car width there, and we stop it. I mean, he's right in the middle of the car. Very difficult to call those, and it depends on which side you're on.
Now on board, that's Chaz Mostert with Kostecki, I think. And look at the gaggle of cars, Neil. Wow.
Pie on the inside, car number 20 in the Seiko entry. And it's a block of supercars on the run into the left-hander at turn 6 on a cold tyre. Pie prevails from Waters in that group. And then Nick Percat's on the outside. It can be very dirty around there.
Oh, who's in the fence?
One of the truck assist cars has gone heavily into the wall down there on the exit of turn 7.
This will be safety car.
And Heimgartner's involved in it as well. This will trigger the safety car. We've had a low probability of the safety car in recent times, and this will bunch up the field.
The original start was perfect. Have a look at the way he's able to make it walk. Had almost no wheel spin in the second phase at the start, and gapped everybody into turn 1. Great job. And then this wild pack. So that's on board now with David Reynolds. David actually made ground on Van Gisbergen. Garth Tander said before the start that one of the small little glimpses that we see sometimes for Van Gisbergen is poor starts. That was one of them. Now, this is the gaggle of cars that we were commenting on. Now, who contacts who? Now, Jack LeBrock and Heimgartner have made wheel-to-wheel contact, and then bang, off the road they go.
Yeah, so it's an interlock.
I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they've just ended up just jammed on each other's wheels. And so LeBrock just carting Heimgartner out there. He's actually gone in pretty heavily there. Thankfully, those tyres have done the job. And one of our marshals, I think, is also just trying to escape the scene, has tripped over the fence down there. So this is the view from the WAU car. So, yeah, so steering damage, I'd say, almost instantaneously for LeBrock. Then he's not able to steer the car. And the reaction inside the Brad Jones Racing garage, great frustration for them.
Can he dive it down the inside? He's got 2 more corners after this one. This is turn 11.
Everybody sidestepping, and Di Pasquale gets so close. They're 1 corner from home. He has a sniff at the gap. They're going to hit, and he's turned him. He's turned him at the last corner. Unbelievable. Van Gisbergen's been turned around at the last corner by Di Pasquale, and he checks up. He checks up. He's going to give it back to him.
No, he didn't let him redress. So he was going to redress. address, but he didn't let him. Shane stayed there and let him go by first, so he'll get a penalty as a consequence. They're playing the judicial game.
Look at this on the replay. He threw everything at it, Di Pasquale. It was a do-or-die move. Bang! Gets him in the left rear corner. They would have locked eyes at that point in the cockpit of the car, and it would be a ferocious exchange. Bang! Get that into you. So around goes Shane. Right now, Di Pasquale's thinking, what do I do? Do I back it off and roll to the line? And then the confusion at the line, and in the end, the umpire sorted it out. And a good call. He's within striking distance now. He's so close, it might be an opportunity for a pass here, the way things are going. We're going to have a little more than 3,000 metres to run here. It's high stakes. High stakes between Tickford and 888. Waters in search of a victory for the first one since Townsville last year. And Van Gisbergen wanting to continue that form and assert himself even further in the lead. And he chases him up the hill into turn 3. Can he get by? He's right on him, a nail biter down the hill now into turn 4. There's only a car length between them. Massive pressure on Cam Waters, who cannot afford a misstep, particularly up here, as Mark Scaife suggested, into turn 7. This is the exit of 5. Here comes the curb at 6. Bang, over the top of it. Vulnerability right here, and Van Gisbergen knows it, and he shoves the nose up the inside, but it's not quite enough. Out the other side, and still Waters has got a margin, but it's only just barely. If he can hang on to this, it'll be a great under-pressure victory for Waters. And Van Gisbergen tries to drive it out the other side of 9, but he doesn't quite have enough. He's got 3 corners remaining. This is 10. Waters survives out the other side. Now it's 2 corners that separate Cam Waters from a potential victory. They fought for this one at Monster. Van Gisbergen bombs it down the inside of the orbit, and he's almost got up there. And they come together in the final corner. And Gizzy backs away from it. And Cam Waters, a huge victory at Winton. Great last lap. Here's the replay, look at this. He just jams it down the inside. Right there, they interlock wheels, and actually that's where it damaged that left front. So it wasn't so much a case of getting out of it as having no choice for Van Gisbergen. Here's the onboard, let's listen. Gives him one. And another one. Whoa. That's as vigorous as it gets.
Great racing between the two of them. Absolutely awesome. Fantastic.
And that's the end result. This is worth a fight for these guys. For the fella that we're looking at, he's our championship leader, and he's been slowly but surely extending his championship lead for Thomas Randall. Last podium for him was in Adelaide at the back end of last year, so he's not had one so far this season. He'd be pretty keen to get some glory this afternoon, and he's going to fight for it. He doesn't. Oh, the two of them make awkward contact down the bottom there, and a lock-up for Will. That could hurt those tyres. He had to really squeeze the brake in order to be able to deal with that. So this will fire up now as they make their run down towards the bottom. Randall covers down the inside, makes Brown go the long way down here in the final corner, and Will be looking to try, and he's given him a little nudge, and oh, that might actually end up raising the eyebrows up in race control, because that looked like nose-to-tail contact.
Now, for sure Thomas was blocking him, but there was absolutely nose-to-tail contact there, and ended up escorting him off the road. The damage on the back of the car you can see.
Andrew Edwards was engineered for the champion last year in engineer last year with Shane Van Gisbergen, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so this is an awkward one. Trying to do 2 things at once here. Study this incident, and it does look like a pretty classic nose to tail.
Fastest car again on the last lap was David Reynolds.
Yeah, I enjoy watching those images because you get a sense of the car you're riding with and its behaviour based on the sounds in the background. You can also clearly see what the preceding car's doing as well. So there's a couple of strengths that Thomas has got at the moment. He's about to use one of them. Oh, that's a little bit awkward, but he's given him a thump. If he profits from that, he can get a whack from the umpire. He's got to be very careful. They're leaning on one another pretty aggressively here all the way up the back straight. So the aggro continues. It's serve and return of serve all the way up here through 5, and it continues up to turn 6.
Yeah, Will's probably going to give him a bump now. He does.
and he pulls back on the inside. So that was tit for tat. Absolutely tit for tat, and he's running wide. As a consequence, he's going to battle to stay on the black stuff, and he's actually fixed it up.
Fucking pump and run.
That's an unhappy Thomas Randall in the background. There was ag between them in Western Australia as well. You can see that one brewing from back at turn 4. So this all started back in turn 4 here. So he has a lunge down the inside. Because he's landed in his left rear corner, that will have wound the blood pressure up in the cockpit of car 87. And then the two of them are bang, 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 each into the other, all the way up the back. Yeah. Contact, 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 contact. And then he's down the inside on the dirty side here. Will gets down the inside of him, just pulls the nose out and then stabs it down the inside. And then that little moment there is just enough for Thomas to have to come out of the throttle. He's out on the brown stuff, which then turns green. And then he's got to come out of the throttle and sit and wait forever.
This is on board now with Will. So there's the little bump, little bump, little bump. And now Will's on the racing line. On the outside, you're basically out in the marbles. And what Neil said is once you're in those marbles, you're battling to stay on the black stuff, and that turns into the grass. We saw the effect of Randall being out there previously in qualifying yesterday.
It's having the effect of drawing Thomas Randall.
So there's some pretty lively radio chat here. Oh, that's going to be a big hit.
He's got him, and that's awkward. And again, wow. Now, that's highly likely to involve a penalty here for Randall.
Yeah, copy, mate, copy.
And there's damage, unfortunately, on Thomas's car. Waters out to 4.4 seconds over Brown. Forward's going to be on the podium if this continues like it is, but there's a lot of pressure in the background because Mostert now is right in here. Let's have a look at it again on the replay. Thomas Randall, see what happens up here in turn 4 in analysis. So he's miles and miles back. And as you say, Mark, it's the fact that the two of them are so close, the Red Bull cars, and he's just absolutely tagged the left rear corner of car number 88 and just shot him round.